Action.
Okay. Well, my name is Aaron Kalani Metcalf. I was born in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Moved to Hawaii when I was like 4 or 5.
Why'd you do that?
'Cause my father's side of the family is Hawaiian, and my mom is from Tennessee. But anyway, so we were living in Wartburg, Tennessee, and my father wanted to be closer to his family, to his mom and my cousins and stuff, and wanted us to experience growing up in Hawaii, I guess, and being around family, because my mom's side of the family is not really close. And I don't know, my dad just wanted that experience for us.
Nice.
Yeah. So grew up in Hawaii. One of the first experiences with drugs and alcohol was, I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I wanted to be cool like my dad. So I drank his beer. It had cigarette butts and stuff in it, but like I drank it and I just felt so cool. And I remember attaching the feeling of like, this made me cool. You know, I'm cool now. My brother's gonna like me. My cousins are gonna like me.
Fitting in.
Yeah, fitting in.
I guess that suggests you felt like you didn't before.
Yeah, no. So I was always like a little lost kid. My dad called me Waldo a lot because I would just disappear. But I always felt like more.
So you got brothers and sisters?
Yes, there's 7 of us.
Are you middle?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm like right in the middle. Number 4.
yeah.
But yeah, I never felt like I like fit in or got along with like anybody. I was always at like most peace and comfort, like when I was alone with like the nature or the beach, you know. Felt always more at one when it was just me, myself, and the world. I don't know. I didn't get along with people, and I felt like there was a huge problem with that because I saw everybody else always being jovial. As much as it's hard to believe for those that know me very well, I was a very quiet kid. Did not talk much. Made up for that in my adulthood. But no, I just didn't feel like I got along with like anybody. And that I always had this feeling that everybody just hated me. You know, like nobody liked me, nobody wanted to be around me, or, you know. And I remember thinking I was so cool. People are gonna like me because I did that, even though, you know, full of cigarette butts. Yeah, but and then I remember like always seeing like my aunts and uncles and my dad like just getting hammered, like causing scenes hammered on the beach, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I always chased my aunts and uncles around and drank their cups or their beers after they were finished with them. You know, some nasty shit. I was like, I was the bottom, you know, chasing the leftovers at parties, like when I was a kid. And I just remember it made me like calm and like not really care about being around other people or like what they thought. I didn't give a shit. I remember the first time I actually got like wasted. I was 13 or 14 years old, and I remember like doing it, and I was with some friends and stuff, and like it got to a point where like I didn't care about fitting in or any of that. I just remember the feeling of not hating myself too much, or not even really like that. It was like I don't care, you know. Like, life doesn't matter to me when I'm like this. My feelings
Like you didn't realize how much you had that on you, and then the moment that you inebriated, it just goes away. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, you always hear those people like, and I mean, it sounds so cliche or cheesy, but like, that's the truth.
It's like, what better way is there to describe it?
Yeah, it was like I could breathe, I could think without these crazy voices in my head telling me that I'm not worth a crap and that I should kill myself. Because I've suffered from suicidal ideations like since I was a young'un. First time I tried to commit suicide was 11 years old. I didn't really know what I was doing, but the therapist sure as hell, you know, it became concerned, and I was put into counseling and stuff very young. Started on the whole medication rounds when I was very young. But I remember those thoughts were quieter and my feelings were non-existent. Because I feel like, I don't know if I feel any more feelings than other people do. I just feel like I feel very intensely. Like if I'm sad, I'm very sad. If I'm sad for somebody, like it's more empathy than sympathy. You know what I mean? It's like I feel everything deeply. And I don't know, it was a lot to deal with when I was younger. All these emotions and crazy thoughts in my head. But drinking just made it like, just done. And then I discovered weed at 14. 2 weeks later, this guy that I was smoking weed with, he was like 21, I was 14. But a guy I was smoking weed with shows up and he's like, hey man, have you ever heard of OxyContin? And I'm like, no. Do tell. What is this?
It sounds clean and sterile.
Yeah, it sounds great. Sounds a lot better than stealing my dad's booze, you know? And he offered me some. I remember he gave me like the tiniest little bit. And I did it and it didn't take but like 5-10 minutes. And I was just in heaven, you know? I got the same effects that I was getting from alcohol, but I wasn't stumbling all over myself. I wasn't, you know, pissing the living room floor in the middle of the night, you know? And I didn't hurt afterwards. But I remember just like, okay, I found my purpose in life almost. Like this is what the meaning of life is to get just completely fucked. And I remember I chased that high. They always say like you chase your first high. I believe that to be very true. Because I chased and chased and chased. By the time I was 15, it's like right before my 16th birthday, I was completely strung out on OxyContin and codeine. And I was doing crazy things at that age to get it. I remember I had a friend and her father was a cancer patient and was prescribed cancer patient medicine. Like he was dying and he had all the good shit. And I remember at like 15 years old breaking into this dude's house while his daughter was at her mom's. So I knew she wasn't going to be home. He's at treatment, you know, so I'm like, okay.
Were you still in Hawaii at this time?
No, I had moved back to Tennessee at that point. Completely forgot about that. Yeah, man, my grandfather was dying and my mom wanted to be close to him when he went. So we moved back. My dad stayed back there for a while. Yeah, man, and at this point when I'm breaking into houses and strung out, my mom had left. I don't know if I subconsciously jump over that because it's hard to talk about. So I endured a lot of abuse as a kid from my alcoholic father. Some sexual abuse, not from my mom or dad or nothing, but from a family member, as well as a babysitter. And that stuff kind of fucked my head. That was part of those voices in my head saying, you know, something's wrong with me. But yeah, I don't know. I seem to like always subconsciously skip over that stuff. Even though it's not really that hard to talk about nowadays. But that, telling my story and leaving that out, it's leaving out like a big chunk. Because it was a driving force of the hunger for inebriation. You know, that's the part of the driving force of my use.
It still feels, to me, like when you say it, it still feels like as if it's something you haven't made sense of completely, if that...
Like, what do you mean? Like, why the abuse happened?
Not I guess that, but like the moving back and that part of your story. Either it seems like it's like it's not significant, yet it's also very significant in a way we just don't know how to...
It is. It's just, it's very hard to articulate. And like, as we said, you know, you just wanted to hear this. And it's like, when I'm in, you know, 12-step fellowships in that setting and I'm telling my story, it's, I've been taught that you got to be careful with what you say to who you say. but always be honest and genuine. So it's like a conundrum. I'm like, ugh. So, but I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but a lot of it is, that's something that I'm still working through. Because like I have children, and I look at my daughters, I'm like, how could anyone ever hurt a child the way that I've watched, you know, my mother and father hurt my youngest brother, and the things that I saw my older brother go through, and the things that I endured, you know. I was a witness to a lot and endured a lot myself. And I don't know, man, but like I said, that's like a huge driving force in all this. Because, you know, my mom had split. We woke up one day and she's just gone. And then that's when, like shortly after that was when I had my first real drunken episode. And then, you know, 14, you know, discovering marijuana and OxyContin, which, yeah, man, that got its hooks in me deep. Like, I remember not knowing what being sick was. I thought I was just a very sickly teenager because I partied, you know, but like, it was, I remember my dad talking to me about it. He's like, it's like you're addicted to nicotine, you know. And I remember him saying, he's thinking that my mood swings and my tantrums and my like physical ailment was because I was addicted to cigarettes. So he started buying me cigarettes. And
interesting way to help out, support.
yeah. Well, I mean, that, I guess, I don't know. I remember my dad saying, he's like, if you're going to fucking do it, then I'm going to be a part of it. Like, something like it's my responsibility that you smoke now. So, I don't know. I mean, I know he was just doing his best. Yeah, but like, he was very, very strange because he was a TBI investigator. Yeah, he was 12. So he was in law enforcement, and he, I guess he just didn't know how to handle it. But yeah.
Well, I mean, like you said, we're doing the best we can with what we have.
Yeah, I mean,
I just find it interesting the path that a lot of us take to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my dad. So my dad, his drinking started taking a more serious toll in his life. It was becoming more abusive, and it seemed like it was like even my brothers will sometimes tell me, you know, just out of the blue too, and it's really weird that, like, you know, I'm sorry the way you had it when we were younger, because the abuse stopped like almost completely for my younger brother, and my older brother, due to my dad's drunkenness, was like forced to pretty much, you know, help raise us. He was like a father figure to us as well. But my dad and I, we just did not see eye to eye. Like I said, I mean, he did all kinds of shit for me. And whenever I had gone and like realized that I needed help, I remember talking to him like, hey, I'm addicted to pain pills, and I've been breaking into the dude's house down the road for him. And I've been convincing people to buy me alcohol and all kinds of stuff, telling them, I was like, I just can't. Like, I didn't live a sober day in the years 15, 16, and most of my 17th year of life, I did not live like much of sober. Very, very rarely drew sober breath. But I remember he was the one I went to for help, and he got me into treatment, and thus started the one of many, many times that I went. I remember, like, after that, like, we kind of reconciled a little bit, like around 17 and 18 years old. But then I started, I kind of figured out how to make money off of drugs. So I got pretty good at that and started doing that, and started getting on a higher and higher scale of selling drugs. I mean, mostly it was weed, mushrooms, and LSD and stuff like that. But even with just those, you start to kind of attract some unwanted attention, not only from the authorities, but from, you know, bad people. So I was selling at a higher and higher scale. And my father actually got a professional courtesy from one of his colleagues about me. They were like running files on me and stuff. And that was a huge like falling out for me and my father. So I'm leaving home because, you know, he told me to get the fuck out. And I remember I tried to like get out of it, but like that's like all I knew was like that and working crappy fast food restaurant jobs. You know, when I was a kid. So it was like that was my means of money, and I made great money. I remember trying to justify it to my dad. I was like, I make more money than you do, and you work for like 10 times as much as I do. It's like, so why would I stop? And it's just arrogant 17-year-old. And with that, like, came a lot of partying, and I was like the center of the party because I had all the drugs. So I thought everybody loved me and I'm cool. And with it came that like, just like I'm the man, you know. People wanted shit that came to me.
Validation.
Yeah, definitely. Girls, you know, really wanted to hang out with me, and you know, I just had what everyone wanted, you know, and so yeah, man, sought through that. I had trouble stopping that, but I ended up meeting the mother of my children, and she got pregnant, and so I started trying to like live a responsible life. I didn't completely stop selling the weed, but I stepped back from it, and I literally just funded my buddy to sell the drugs for me. Sat back and made money like that because I thought that was better. But my dad and I started getting closer because he finds out that we're having a girl, and he always wanted daughters. So he's all excited about having a grandbaby. And then him and I get close, finally, like really get close. Something that I wanted my whole life. You know, it was me and my dad to be cool. And so we finally get close, and he dies. October 23rd of 2010. And he dies, like, that's like 5 days before my birthday, before my 20th birthday. You know, 3 months before my oldest was born. And I just remember being just broken, you know, like I finally get something that I wanted and that I like needed as a kid. You know, the love of my father. The way I looked at it was he didn't love me before that, now he does, and then, you know, God takes him. So I was a very angry young man at that point. And that's when I can say that like I can look back now and know that I started losing control. Because dude, it wasn't like but the next day that like I go to my buddy that's selling all this shit for me. I'm like, what all are you selling other than weed? And I remember he's like, oh, nothing, man. I said, I only sell your weed. I'm like, bullshit. And he's got all kinds of shit. So that's started my Xanax and the wrecking of cars and getting back on pain pills, man. You know, I try not to get into too much specificity with it, but Opana's, you know, oxycodones, hydros, you know, perks, all that shit. So I started getting real bad on that. Started getting like full-blown junkie status with it. And I remember my ex-wife, she had dabbled before we had gotten married, but when we got married, she started, you know, doing more serious stuff. So she really took a likeness to cocaine. So I like used her love of uppers to help me get high without her shaming me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like I manipulated it. Like, okay, well, she likes coke, so I can do this handful of Xanax and these Roxys if I, you know, buy her a gram of coke. So I started doing that. And man, I'll tell people all the time, like, I've literally been strung out on just about every substance you can think of. Like, everything. I mean, I had a little kick with PCP, like, all the stuff, like, most obscure things, which I used to wear as a badge of honor, and now I just try to use it to help a larger demographic of people. But I use that, and I use her love of uppers to help fuel my own shit. And I remember before Lillian was born, you know, I'm super excited. I'm about to be a dad. And I wish today that I could tell you that I remember her birth because I witnessed it and watched her come into this world. And it's a blur. Even now I could like struggle to try to remember some stuff. I just don't remember any of the finer details. I look at pictures and I'm like, I don't remember that because there's tons of them. My mom was there, and at this point my mom's back in my life and we're building a relationship. And like I just don't remember anything. She took like 30, 40 pictures of us. You know, me holding Lillian, me presenting Lillian to my brother. Like I don't remember any of it because I was more concerned with the pain meds. And I remember Catherine had to have a episiotomy, which they snip you down there, if you know what that is. If you don't, then don't worry about it. But yeah. But so with that comes pain medicine. And I remember instead of worrying about my anemic wife, literally she was on, not to the point of life support, but she was bad off. And my newborn,
have transfusions and stuff.
Yeah, and my newborn baby, instead of being worried about that, I'm worried about me getting those drugs that they're giving her, because that's what I want. I don't give a shit about Lily. I don't give a shit about Catherine. I just want the drugs they're giving her. And man, it starts snowballing, and I get to a point where it's like Catherine will come in and she'll be like, I'm either leaving with Lillian or you're going to stop doing this. And I would stop for like a couple days, you know. And she would think I'd been stopped for like a month, but I'm sneaking and doing it. All the while smoking weed because, you know, California sober is sober, right? No. But, you know, and I'm, you know, sneaking around doing it. And then here comes the second baby. And I remember I was able to string together about a month and a half, just not doing anything, no program or nothing, just because I was going to have a new baby. And I was pretty scared that my wife was going to leave me because, like I said, validation. I had a wife and I had the daughter, and I wanted them to stay for all the wrong reasons, but still, like I was what I thought was happy. And you know, I remember stringing that together, and then she comes, and I remember the night, I'm sitting with a buddy of mine that comes, and it's a water birth, they get in the little hot tub type pool thingy, and I got to deliver Madeline. But I don't remember it because I had to celebrate because I was going to do that. You know, I used my daughter coming into this world as an excuse, like, okay, it's time to break this tolerance break. And I got good and wasted and don't remember it, you know, at all. And those are like two beautiful experiences, especially the second one, you know. Madeline, that's a beautiful experience to be able to be the one that holds your child as they come into the world. Yeah. Like.
It's also it's a very heavy experience, very like traumatic, but like maybe in a
beautiful
positive
way.
In a beautiful way. But I feel like you were doing the best you could with what you had at the time.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I had been introduced to the rooms and stuff. At this point, I had been to the treatment. I'd been to once, and I'd been to a few meetings. So I was introduced to like a way out, but like didn't really care for it. But still, I was doing, I guess you could say, the best I could, you know. Looking back, it was just me just being selfish and not caring. And that's not just programming.
That was the best you could do, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, give me some slack. Yeah. But I just remember being, like, looking back at it now, I can really see that, like, substance was my master. And nothing else mattered above it. As I can tell you until I run out of breath how much my children mean to me. But, you know, substance was better, you know, more prominent in my life. Not better, but stronger.
How you felt mattered more than anything else. I would call that selfish,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah. It's definitely selfish. Because they couldn't, there's a program people will say something like, the frothy emotional appeal
seldom suffices.
Yeah, that's very true. But it's like emotionally, they couldn't fix me.
Yeah. What's the depth and weight of that then? What's the frothy emotional appeal is like, oh, this was so bad this way, and this was so bad this way, and I did this much. But where's the message of depth and weight with there? I guess that it's that you're sitting here right now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I guess because, my kids couldn't make me happy. It was me, now it's me seeking ways to make me happy with me. You know what I mean? They always say, it's like, you can't love others till you love yourself. And yeah, that sounds corny as shit, but it's so true. Because today I am still learning how to love myself, but I like myself. I can look at myself in the mirror. And that's huge for me.
Well, So, I've struggled with the ideation as well. Just because it seems like it probably if I was being real honest, because it seems easier than just existing sometimes and feeling all the things, right? Just not seems like a relief sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, man. But a huge driving force for all this use is, like you said, the way I felt was more important. It was me not wanting to feel so much, and me wanting to be happy, because I thought that those things made me happy. And I remember always feeling like a terrible person because my children didn't make me happy. And it's not that they didn't make me happy. I was just so consumed with myself, I couldn't experience the joy that comes with being a father.
Heard it called bondage of self?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's so many different ways to explain it. I was caught in a snare, you know what I mean? Of just...
But I can't see it.
Yeah. And I couldn't see it at the time at all.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Not just for you, but the people around you.
Yeah, man.
And that goes for anybody that's ensnared in that.
Yeah, that's the most frustrating thing about talking to people about this stuff is when they don't
because there's
see
the camp
it,
because the camp is I see what you're saying. I was thinking about people that think addiction or something being of a choice only.
Oh no, but that's a whole nother frustrating thing.
But
I'm talking when I'm talking to a prospect, you know, or somebody that's
somebody that's also got this bondage thing but can't see it.
that want to get help, and it's like,
where did you recognize that it was you that you were in bondage to rather than the dope? What did that look like?
So moving forward with all this, I come up to the Tri-Cities to go to treatment, and I'll get to that question. I feel like this helps explain it. But I get up there, and at this point I had discovered needles, and I discovered that I can feel 10 times as much, 10 times quicker, and it's literally hundreds of dollars cheaper. So I discovered heroin in the needle. And we come to treatment because her parents come in and they're like, we're taking the girls. Here's DCS officer. Can y'all pass a drug test? Can we search the house? They literally, needless to say, they ended up going with, grandma and grandpa. And we were ordered to go to treatment. So I come up here and I remember meeting a bunch of people and I was in denial that, okay, I'm not as bad as these motherfuckers. Doing the same thing that they were doing, but I'm not as bad as them. And it was...
In what context?
They were way more junkies than I was. Because I had only used the needle from 25.
See, that was the justification.
Or 26, actually. Yeah, that was my justification.
I held out this long.
Yeah. In my 18 years of addiction, only 6 of them were needle dope.
Where my willpower aligned, let's focus on that niche.
Yeah. Although I was doing countless of other...
I've had stints of having physical hooks with every substance known to man But where it comes to needles, I held out.
Yeah, so that's how the delusional.
That's the issue with talking to people that may have this that don't see it that way, because that, like, the peculiar mental twist that we can have.
It's fucking infuriating, honestly. But yeah, man, that's just how my mind worked, and it was between 2017. 2018 or so, like back when I met y'all, it was between then and this last time that I came in that I finally realized, because it was everything.
What made you realize?
I did everything I swore I would never do, and getting heavy and keeping it PG, I've prostituted myself. I have, like, with every sense of the being of using that term, I've done that. I was homeless. I gave up a $50,000 a year job. Like, I was making great money, and I resigned because it was that, or the union was going to help fight my case, because I was going to possibly, very small chance, but possibly face federal indictment for, I was a post office employee, for having heroin and needles on the post office. And it was, me having every opportunity to change my life for the better, get my children back. And I turned from all of it. And it was, like they say, it seldom suffices, but it honestly, like, started weighing on me, like, holy crap, I'm trading my children for drugs. Not literally like, here, take a baby, but like, it was live a life to get my kids or do drugs. And I chose doing drugs, putting myself in all these crazy different positions. I remember being in a house full of people, like, before I came, and I'm in a house with, like, bad people, a couple of them with bodies on them, more than a couple. And, like, so I'm in a house full of murderers, doing very sick shit, robbing people, putting, like, rat poison in drugs, and just all kinds of crazy shit, man. Just, seeing what they had cut their drugs with, selling it to these other people, sick people. And I remember just being like, okay, I'm not one of them. You know what I mean? Like, this is not me. I don't know who I am, but this definitely isn't it. And I was like, this is what I've traded my children for.
That awareness.
Yeah.
Whatever you're talking about.
Yeah. And while I'm in this house, I had contracted staph one way or another from this girl. And I remember her telling me, it's like, I have staph. And I'm just like, so? I gave myself Hep C using my own dirty needles. Like, it's cool. And so it's somehow or another, I got it either from, sharing needles with her or sleeping with her or whatever it was, but I had contracted staph. And it was eating my bone. And it developed in this thing called osteomyelitis, which literally is just a big fancy word for necrosis of the bone. And my leg was rotting off my body, like, and you could smell me. I smelled like roadkill, is what the people around me was saying, like, from the other side of the house. And they stuck me in a room by myself to do my drugs in there. They're like, this is your room, man. You can stay in here as long as you want. Just stay in here, because it stunk so bad. It wasn't like lack of hygiene. I'm homeless, but, like, even if I showered, I still stunk because my legs rotting off of me. And I remember thinking, like, I'm around these crazy people, and I'm one of these crazy people. This is not where I want to be. My leg, I'm dying, Literally I think it was like 3 or 4 days after getting out of the hospital from septic, And I was in the hospital for, like, almost a week. Just constantly pumping antibiotics in me to keep me alive. And I'm in there and I'm like, why can't I stop sticking this needle in my arm? And I remember looking down at it. It's rusted. It's, like, bent all to hell. It's dull. I'm literally, like, jabbing myself with a dull spoon pretty much.
Sounds like popping a cork going.
Yeah. And it was just, I couldn't stop. And I started crying while I'm sitting there doing my drugs. And something told me to call a buddy of mine. And he was like, bro, I will drive you to rehab. Like, day after tomorrow. You can come and stay at my place, you know, and I'll get you there. And so I ended up staying with another buddy like another day after. And I remember all of that with all this new revelation, because literally it was like it fell into my lap. And I call it God now. But it is like it fell into my lap. I get a hold of a caseworker. A woman that we both know very well ended up like kicking in the trap house door, coming in there and wrestling a knife out of my hands that I was trying to, you know, without getting too graphic, kill myself with. And so, you know, she drags me out of this house. I have nowhere else to go. She's like, I'm not taking you back to the trap house. So I'll call another buddy, and he lets me stay while the other dude prepares for a trip to Nashville. And she helped me get a hold of a caseworker that got me into treatment, like literally like that. And I had called this place. I had been on a waiting list forever, you know, because it was starting to get cold. I was trying to go to treatment for the winter. But it was like it just, everything fell into place. And I ended up going to treatment. While I'm in treatment, I go to the hospital trying to save the leg and all that. I remember they did a massive surgery. And while I was in treatment for 3 months this time. Because at this point, this was treatment number 18. That's including hospital detoxes, nut wards, and all that. Which is why I had to go all the way to Nashville. Nowhere in East Tennessee will take me. I go all the way up there, and I end up going to a hospital. They remove a lot of my bone, a lot of the hardware, and replace it with other hardware. And at this point, I think I'm going to get to keep the leg. And I kept having to have surgeries and more surgeries because it kept coming back, the infection. And I ended up making my way up back to East Tennessee. And it was like this last time, I try not to forget what it was like the day before I went to treatment. And I remember that feeling of like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I just do not. And I knew it wasn't going to be as easy as just not, you know, because I proved to myself that I couldn't just not use drugs. I've tried it, you know, before the ex-wife left, after the ex-wife left. All the many times that everybody up here in the recovery community has seen me in and out. And like, the reason why I came back here, not just for the kids, but every one of y'all that I called, like, remembered me, knew who I was, and cared. As annoying as I was, you know, and like, as frustrating as some of the people I, you know very well and love very much now tell me I was, you know, just my inability to get it, you know, or the lack of wanting it. Or that's the wrong term, because I wanted it. It was the lack of being willing to do anything about it, you know. They all remembered me, and they all still love me, and they were like, man, come on up, you know. It literally, not even like before I could get finished asking, like, can I come up there and, you know, live in one of you? Is yeah, of course, absolutely. You're gonna do something, you know. You're gonna leave the women alone. You're gonna do this and this and this and this. And it wasn't like asking him if I'm okay with it. It was like, this is what you're gonna do. This is what's worked for me. So you can either do this or stay where you are. So it was like I had more of a drive. And not gonna lie, a lot of it was like trying to keep my leg and my health and getting in my kid's life. I ended up getting the, you know, trade or career, as I like to say, that I've got now, which is painting, you know, commercial painting and residential painting. And a year, about 9 months into painting and my 1 year of sobriety, I go back to the hospital. I remember I was riding around with Wes. I was chilling with him. He picked me up from work, and we were shooting the shit. I remember we were coming up with an exit plan because I did aftercare, after treatment care. You know, IOP for, I don't know, like 8 or 9 months. And we were coming up with an aftercare plan of like what I'm going to do, you know, leaving this, you know. the steps I need to take to ensure success. And we're sitting there having the meeting, and I'm like, man, my leg really hurts, and there's a spot swelling up on it. And I remember he's like, oh, and I show him. He's like, yeah, we should go to the hospital. There was like a big old knot on my leg, and it came to a head like a pimple. So it did not look cool. It did not look good. And we go to the specialist over at Watauga Ortho, and they were like, Aaron, like, this is... Because I was like, okay, I'll wear that brace y'all were talking about. they were like, we're beyond this point, Aaron, And I remember he's like, sometimes we speak sensitively, but this is not the first time we've had this conversation. So that's going to need to be amputated. And I'm just like, no. He's like, well, what you're going to do is I'm going to admit you now, because that is infected. You're possibly septic. He's like, you need to go. So Wes takes me up to Bristol. I get checked in, and I remember it was I went to the hospital about 6 days before my 1-year anniversary, and I'm in there, and at the time I was struggling pretty bad in my sobriety. My sponsor had relapsed. I had a girl break up with me, and oh, woe is me. I remember my oldest daughter set this thing called healthy boundaries with me. Like, I'm not ready for full dad, like, give me time, I don't trust you, pretty much. She didn't say these things, but it's what I gathered from it. It was a little too much too quick for her. So, like, anyway, I was full of self-pity, like, big old thing, oh, well, I didn't get sober to be this miserable. And then the leg thing happens. So I'm in the hospital, and I remember 3 days in, they're like, that's gotta come, but it's your choice. But they told me what life would look like if I didn't, and what life could look like if I did. And I remember it was like to a point where it's like 7 surgeries deep, from the initial break of the bone to the infection to now. 7 surgeries. I'm over $500,000 in medical debt right now. And it's like, I'm like, okay, so I only see it getting worse. And I remember, and my boss praises me, he's more than a boss to me, but he praises me all the time for a statement that I had said, because I remember calling him and I was like, hey man, so I'm not going to be able to come back to work for a little while. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, they're going to take my leg. And I remember he was telling me, like, just the levity of me saying it, at the time, I'll be honest with you, I was masking shit, but like still. And he goes, well, what are we going to do now? How are you feeling? I'm like, I'll be able to run with my daughters, is what they're telling me. So I think it'll be good. And he always praises me for that. But like, honestly, like, that's what I clung to. And
the kids
was being able to run with my kiddos again. Just thinking that, like, thinking of what it felt like to watch my kids play soccer with their stepdad. Nothing against them. I love them to death. We're tight, but watching them do that and me not being able to, because I couldn't run. So it was like that hope of that. I'll get to play soccer with my kids. I clung to that because, as we were saying before all this, like, I started hitting a really dark point after that. And at that point, I had gotten a new sponsor, and my new sponsor is very, like, God-driven. Like, really beats it down to expand spiritually. He's like, grow deeper in your relationship with your higher power, grow with God. And I needed it at that time because, at the surgery, I maintained this positive attitude while I'm in the hospital. I remember after the surgery, they take all the bandages off, and I look down and see that I'm missing like a third of my leg, and I just start freaking out. Anyway, so I ended up coming back here, and I'm stuck in this fucking bed for like 6 months, if not a little longer. Like, I'm just stuck in this bed. Well, it was more like 4 months, but I'm stuck here, and I'm getting more and more depressed. Full of self-pity, like, woe is me, poor me. And I know that going back to drugs is not the answer. Like, I just know that that's not what I want. I had gotten those drugs that I was addicted to while I was in the hospital. That was its own struggle. But I had gotten a taste again, and I was like, okay, that's not what I want. I hated every second of it. I tried to white knight it and say, no, don't give me anything. And they told me, no, you'll go into shock from pain and could die. You could literally have a heart attack from how bad it will hurt. And I'm like, so it was, there was no denying it. They didn't even really give me the option to deny the surgery meds. But anyway, so like I just hit this dark point, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself. And I remember instead of doing that, it was because I was dead set on it, man. Like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I had my plan. I had, I was about to start writing notes, and something told me to just like reach out instead. So I did, and it was like, maybe I really don't want to die, after talking with this woman. And not only her, I called her, I called my sponsor, I called, trusted friends. Like, look, dude, I'm literally seconds away from killing myself. And I don't know, I didn't. And I started expanding with this relationship with God as I see him. And it was like, I want to say it's almost like a night and day thing. It's like one day I just woke up and I'm like, okay, I'm cool. But I couldn't really tell you like what or why. I only explained it as like God gave me another purpose for life. And I saw that it was like, what did I because I literally fought tooth and nail to get where I am today. Not just this, but I survived a lot of shit on the street. And I thought about all the things that I've survived in childhood. And it was like, okay, I didn't fight all my way to here to just, be the one that takes me out, So I really dove into my spiritual beliefs, dove into trying to help other people. But this whole leg experience, I really kind of downplay the levity of it that I had on my life, but it changed me, man. I know to some people it might not seem like a big deal, but it caused me to slow down, stop trying to do everything so quickly. It caused me to really reflect on myself. And honestly, I could say that part of me wanting to end it at one point was I saw how much darkness I have in me, But I was forced to sit in here, couldn't do nothing, literally had to get help to get to the bathroom, And it was the struggle of relearning how to walk, which I say struggle. I was literally back to work within 7 days of getting my prosthetic. But there was a struggle there, And it was just I had this determination to win, And it was I'm gonna get out of this shit. I'm the only one that can get me out of this shit. Or I'm gonna die, and I don't really think I wanna die, And it was since I've gotten that determination, man, I've done things that literally me putting in the effort, it took a lot less time than I initially thought. It was I was scared of the effort or just didn't have motivation. But I've accomplished more in this 9 months, or I'm not doing math right, 7 months, than I did in my first year of sobriety. Because I'm 20 months now. So you do the math. I'm terrible at math.
Sounds good. The math is mathing right
From
now.
12 to 20, 12 months to 20 months. I did more in that time than I did in my whole year. And it's because losing this caused me to view life differently. Whereas before I used to say, oh, I don't do death. I can't do death. I can't do loss in any shape or form. Whereas now I look at it as beautiful, because without it, I can't experience gain, or I can't experience life.
That's what makes it so rich.
Yeah, and I embrace sadness because without being sad, I don't know what happy is, you know? And I could never truly appreciate happiness, success, or any of this if I didn't embrace, you know, the darker things in life. And I would have never had that point of view unless it was like, you know, for me to be forced and trapped in my own mind. This is the way I look at it, like just stuck in my head, in here, a lot of time by myself. I didn't have a roommate for a long time, so it was just me, myself, and I, you know? And I knew that I couldn't get out of any of this, like with just me, so hence growing spiritually. And I also knew that I wasn't going to achieve anything unless I put forth effort. And it was like once I started, like I said, it didn't take half as long as it usually did because there's people, you know, crazy as it is, that will help you with this stuff if you just try, you know? So it was like losing the leg gave me determination. And, you know, today I can actually say that I'm happy and hopeful for life.
What's your favorite thing about your life today?
I'm in my kid's life and I'm happy. And my happiness does not rest on outside things. Those are still driving forces. I would be lying if I didn't say, you know, the pretty girlfriend who adores me, for, you know. And whereas I used to be like, oh, I don't know why they love me, you know, but it's like, I deserve it. You know what I mean? And that's something big. But it's like, and the kids loving me. Like, so I'd say it's like me being in my kid's life and like me actually caring about myself. So it's like this peace and happiness that I have today.
Yeah, so like, to bring it full circle, is that, like, the question was, what did it look like? Like the awareness of this is not working for me. It looks like it in the beginning that it looked like a lot of pain and grieving in some form or fashion, but it's like you're not the one that is thinking these thoughts. You are the one that is aware of them. You're not the one that's you know, having all these internal battles or strifes. You're like, all of a sudden you're aware that you're not those thoughts. You're the one having them. You're aware they exist. And the gift of desperation that comes from with that awareness.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's exactly it, man. It's like watching yourself on a screen, and it's like realizing how much, like, where you do have control, which I don't have the control to just take those away, but I have the control to do something that will take them away. But yeah, it's like,
sadly, it just takes effort.
yeah. Yeah. It takes doing a bunch of shit I don't like doing. But yeah, man, no, that's like, I mean, that's a better description than I could probably get, man. But it's like, yeah, being aware, being coherent to the things that are holding me down or beating me down.
You're awake.
Yeah. Woke.
Escape the matrix.
Yeah. Woke culture.
Well, yeah. Maybe
Yeah, I'm being facetious.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, but yeah, no, man, it's like actually being alive.
Yeah, well, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever's light in your eyes, the way that your energy, your aura in itself. I mean, that's a little frou-frou to say, but that's the only way for me to articulate it.
Frou-frou is my language, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, it was rad.